Hey, got a twofer today. Hopefully, I can keep it at a reasonable length. Want to address two questions. First of all, what's wrong with religion? And secondly, are the irreligious wanted and welcome here at the Old Goat Garage and Institute of Lower Learning? Well, in short, yes, they are. Very much so. Who else am I going to experiment on? I'm kidding. I don't see people as projects. I see people as opportunities for me to be a part of something bigger than me. And so at any rate, that's the short answer. Let's get into really answering that question in a little bit more meaningful way. My target, if I have one, and I do, I guess, is truth seekers. I don't like plastic society. I didn't like high school. Because by the time you get to high school, you've got cliques and you've got groups and you've got clubs and you've got sports heroes and you've got beauty queens and you've got drama queens and such a weird mix of people who just don't have a clue what authenticity is. And I only really, when I was in high school, had one real friend. And that was so different from everything I'd observed in my life up till that time that unless I could find another friend like that, I just wasn't interested in what most people called friendship. I didn't need a shopping buddy. I didn't need a fishing buddy. I didn't need a lunch buddy. I needed real friends. And I discovered way early in life, those are few and far between. So at any rate, that's one of the things in a sense I want to offer, but real friendship, real relationship requires authenticity, a degree of transparency, and a little bit of vulnerability. And I just find it refreshing when I find somebody, whatever their background, whatever their philosophy, whatever their conclusions about life, when I find somebody who really is a truth seeker, I just draw from that. I'm blessed, I'm encouraged, strengthened, challenged. Probably that last one is one of the most important things for me is I need challenge. I'm old enough and set enough my ways that, I could tell you how it's all done. No, I can't. As I've said so many times before, I don't have all the answers. I've just made most, if not all, the mistakes. And there's some benefit in that coming out the other side because you learn where not to step. You learn where the landmines are. And if I can, I'd like to help some of the truth seekers find out where some of those landmines are before they step on them. So anyway, that's pretty much that part of the deal. Yes, the whole gamut is here of truth seekers. People who realize they haven't arrived yet, but they're intentional about their journey, conscious about their journey, conscious about their exploration of self, those around them, the world they live in, and particularly in regards to those deep, deep questions that everybody asks, whether they consciously think, now, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? That's what I think about a lot, and other people who are wrestling with those things are people I want to talk to, I want to draw from. So, second question. What's wrong with religion? Well, first of all, what is it? It can be described a lot of different ways. And religion isn't necessarily all bad, but the general connotation of religion in our culture is pretty stinky. And I tend to hold that view. And when somebody uses the term religion, this is kind of what comes to mind. It's human effort to impress God. It's what I do to get God to do what I want God to do. Really, it's me trying to manipulate God. It's one of the most insidious and perverse forms of humanism. If there's something I can do, some effort, some investment, some noble action, sacrifice that I can do to wow God, then maybe really what's going on is I think I'm God. I'm trying to be God. I'm trying to out-God God. Not a good plan. As I've said a few times before, and my wife doesn't like when I use this four-letter word, but we're all crappy gods. She doesn't like the word crap, but we're crappy gods. It's innate to us to attempt, no matter how far we've walked in this world, to try to be God, to try to usurp him. And even if the way that comes out is in religious language and religious actions and religious investment and sacrifice, it's still no more impressive to our Creator. He's the Creator. He's the source of all good things. And so anything good in me really comes from him. My gifts, my talents, my abilities aren't self-taught. I've had the opportunity to polish those, educate, refine those under his tutelage and leadership, but I can't make me a better person. Even today, I can't make me a better person. All I can do is draw on what he offers me and enhance and use the tools that he's given and is giving to be all that I can be. So at any rate, the first thing wrong with religion is that it's man-centered and it's man's effort rather than what God in his all-sufficiency has and is and does on our behalf. The second thing is that it hurts its practitioners. Let's pick on religious leaders for a little while. You know, when you meet somebody who has a great deal of charisma and knowledge and intellect and charm, you know, you can be wowed, and I've been wowed before. And at first think, man, I want to be like that person. I'm going to get close to them and I'm going to draw from them. And at first it's stimulating, motivating, and provides direction. The problem is, as you try to step in their footsteps, one of two things happen. Either eventually you figure out they're not perfect, or maybe before you figure that out, you figure out you can't step in those footsteps. You can't wear their suit. Eventually, hopefully, on the other side of being disillusioned and demotivated because you discover you can't be that good, you come to realize they're not that good either. They're a little man in a big suit, and they're doing the best to live up to what others think they are. So at any rate, religion hurts the practitioners who are pursuing whatever standard of goodness, righteousness, exalted spirituality the religious leader is projecting. That, again, I haven't found one yet that really lives up to all they preach. You know, unfortunately, part of the nitty-gritty of human relationship, and really I'm not sure unfortunately is the right word, but it's a little disappointing, there's a word out there, but again, I can't find words these days. Demoralizing, that's the word I was looking for, when you discover that your hero is not really a hero. He may be an example. He may be a few steps ahead of you in his walk, but he's not all the perfection that unfortunately, and especially religious leaders, feel like they've got to project. So anyway, what's wrong? It's human effort, humanism dressed up as godliness, as spirituality. Secondly, it hurts its practitioners, and really what I've just mentioned is one of the reasons is it's demoralizing. And it sets a standard that often that nobody can reach. You know, if it's up to me to be good enough to impress God, I might as well check out now and go to hell. And don't read too much into that statement, because there's a lot of nuance there as well. But it's demoralizing, and people who, and I remember my first real serious foray as a young adult at being a good guy. Ended in disaster. Tried to follow the tenets of the religious organization I was involved with at that time, and I was so quickly defeated that really my whole lifestyle got worse than it was before I had my so-called religious conversion. So it hurts its practitioners, but here's another thing about it is it hurts its observers. There are people who hear something tugging at their heart. There's some internal voice that tells them that they're not all they could be and should be and can be. But as they see the shallowness of the religious world, they often decide that's not even a place worthy of looking. And as they see the collapse particularly of religious leaders and religious organizations, and maybe even friends and family that are religious. They're demoralized. They're going to have to look elsewhere for spirituality. While we're on that topic, let me make this observation. We've come to a place where it's avant-garde. It's culturally cool to say I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And it's possible to be spiritual and not religious. But let me make this distinction about spirituality and define it just a little bit. When somebody tells me they're spiritual but they're not religious, the first thing I ask in my heart, and I don't always word this to them, but I begin to observe, is that a lot of people think you can have a spiritual life without a connection to your Creator and without a connection to anybody else. It's just a very private, individual thing. That's baloney. One of the things that you can take from the Bible, whether you feel like it's the fountain of truth or not, is you can take this conclusion that biblical spirituality is about relationship. You remove relationship from spirituality and it is not spirituality. It's another form of humanism. It's another source of self-worship, another form of self-worship, another form of self-exaltation. Self-refinement can only take you so far. And if you really trust in it and rely upon it, you're going to crash, and it's going to hurt when you do. So at any rate, religion can make us so busy and drain us so much that we get caught up in activity instead of relationship. See, real religion, James in the New Testament defines real religion. He says something to this effect. True religion, pure religion and undefiled before God is, and I'm leaving out some of this, but it's a pretty good paraphrase nonetheless. Pure religion and undefiled before God is to visit widows and orphans and to keep yourself unspotted from the world. That's really talking about relationship. It's talking about spirituality. And again, if you separate your spirituality from a pursuit of a relationship with your Creator, you're foolish. It's that simple. Sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, want to offend anybody, but facts are facts, and you need to confront that fact and let that fact confront you. But again, spirituality plays out. Religion, good religion, and there is some, plays out in the way you deal with people. So anyway, I want to move really quickly towards the close here. I had a conversation last night with a friend who once made this statement. He said, well, he thought I was accusing him of being an atheist, and I wasn't. And he said in response to a text, I said, I'm not an atheist. I believe in God. I just don't like him. Well, I've been trying to walk with him for now 50 plus years. Sometimes I still don't like him because he has expectations for my life that are frightening to me. Now, as I look back, I don't see anything that he's asked me to do that I regret pursuing. He's not hurt me. He's allowed other things to hurt me in the moment, but I like what Joseph said in the Old Testament one time when some people who had desperately, they tried to kill him. And later the worm had turned and the tables had turned and he was the one with the power, and they thought he was going to lower the boom on him. And he said, hey, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. I can say that about everything that's ever happened in my life. Been through some rough spots, but God only meant it for good, to make me more useful, to refine me, to draw me into closer dependence on him, into a deeper spirituality. So, wrapping it up here, yeah, I hope that if you're irreligious, I don't turn you off. I hope if you hate religion that I don't turn you off, because in a lot of ways, as I've said before, usually I use the term unconventional. I don't fit in a lot of religious associations. And I certainly don't subscribe to a lot of religious pursuits. But I want to be a relational person. I want to be a spiritual person. And back to James, just to kind of put a fine point on that thing, I'm pretty good with the widows and orphans part. You know, I've really got a heart for the underdog, for people who've been chewed up, spit out, you know, people who've been church hurt particularly. Yeah, I still have a little problem with that unspotted from the world thing. I'm not the hellraiser that I once was, but I ain't wearing no halo either. Or at least it needs a lot more polish before it's visible. I hope that regardless what your take is on religious people people who claim to be spiritual, I hope that you've not given up entirely on the idea that your Creator is seeking your heart, loves you, has a plan, has a purpose, is bigger. Jesus is Lord. He's bigger than anything that has ever happened to you, and all those things that somebody might have meant for evil, He only meant for good. Hey, I wish you well. Take care.